So this is Senior Master Coordinator Bob Ferguson. It's my complete delight tonight to have Eli Bremmer with us again. We had a really epic conversation, I think, last year now, 2017. And we're going to take a little bit different tack tonight. So Eli is an international businessman, entrepreneur, coach to other international business people, elite athletes, and the captain of Shaklee's Pure Performance team, and a world-class pentathlete. I think you missed the world record just by a smidge at one point in your life. So Eli is, we're going to be talking tonight about Shaklee as a business. Now, I'm going to have Eli talk a little bit about his experience with the Pure Performance team, just because maybe there's someone on the call who doesn't really know much about the Pure Performance team, and that is a story worth telling. But we're going to focus our interview tonight on looking at Shaklee as a business, and specifically why Eli feels, from his perspective, being an entrepreneur himself, dealing with businesses and business people all over the world, why Shaklee's particularly well positioned and really such an excellent opportunity. So, Eli, wonderful to have you with us tonight.
All right, great. Thanks for being back. Thanks for having me back, Bob. It's I know everyone's a little chilly out there. I'm in Colorado. We're probably in one of the warm spots in the country right now. So welcome to everybody who's on the call tonight and who's listening to the podcast afterwards.
Wonderful. So Eli, tell us a little bit about the Pure Performance team. Why did you choose to be the captain of the Pure Performance team? How did all of that happen?
Well, it's a really crazy story. It started when I was about 14, 15 years old. And I was an aspiring athlete. I was not a good athlete, so there's a big difference between an aspiring and a good athlete. And met a local Shaklee distributor who started talking to me about Shaklee products. And I didn't know much about it, so I conferred with the resident expert, who's my mom, who's got a PhD in human nutrition, who I think you've had on Product Talks before, if I'm not mistaken.
Absolutely.
And she did some research on it and said, Shaklee's really locked down on the science, on what they do. So I actually started using Shaklee products in high school. A while later, kind of became a high school standout athlete, and then kept on using just some basic sports products through college, and then at the start of my career. To make a long story short, I started having some medical issues that were unexplained right at the genesis of my Olympic sports career. And after a lot of tests, we discovered that I had an iron absorption problem. And I was very paranoid about taking any supplements, because Olympic athletes are held to incredibly high standards. It's called strict liability. So if you take anything that's contaminated, you get a ban, even if it's not your fault. So I tried to treat this with my anemia with diet, with anything that would solve it, and it didn't work. Tried other supplements, and finally came to Shaklee, and I actually started a conversation with my mom, and she said, well, you ought to take a look at Shaklee's iron product. And I said, well, it's only 19 milligrams, and I'm taking a 64 milligram pill. And she said, yes, but it's a different type of iron that your body can absorb a lot better. So I started taking that. My anemia was cured, and I was able to compete at the top level of the world after really just having tremendous problems physically. Used Shaklee for a number of years, and officially partnered with them as a sponsored athlete in 2007. Made and competed for the Olympics in 2008, was one of the top athletes in the world that year. And then over the next couple of years, I was thinking more and more about this dilemma that athletes face with needing to have top-end products that could help them compete at the top of the world, but also that were clean and pure enough so that they could survive the rigorous drug testing standards of Olympic athletes. And so in 2011, I partnered with Shaklee to found the Pure Performance team, with the name saying a lot. It's about purity of the products, the purity required by the top athletes in the world under these strict drug testing protocols, and performance. They have to work. When I had anemia, I cared greatly that my anemia is cured. So it's wonderful to have a product that's clean, but if it doesn't work, if the efficacy is not there, then that doesn't do you any good. So in 2012, we had 17 athletes who won 7 medals in the Olympics using Shaklee products, and we've grown from there. In 2014, we just under 10% of the U.S. Olympic team on Shaklee products. and won 10 medals. We had a haul of 16 medals in 2016, and I would love to tell you all the amazing things we're doing next month, but it's under wraps for a couple more days. So next month we're going to have a very large contingent, I can say that, competing in Korea, and it's going to be a pretty phenomenal showing by athletes that are trusting Shaklee with their bodies, with their reputations, with their performance at the top sporting event in the world. So it's been really exciting to do that. It's been exciting to partner with Shaklee. Outside of the performance aspects, we have a lot of athletes that give us great feedback on the products. For instance, it was about 5-6 years ago, toward the beginning of our program, that we started noticing athletes were taking Vivex, and we started asking athletes, why are you taking an anti-aging supplement? And the answer was it helps with cellular regeneration at the mitochondria level, and it made them feel better about how their bodies were recovering. And so that, combined with other research Shaklee did, led them to putting Vivex in the life strip. So that's just one example of how Shaklee has partnered with these amazing athletes. And as of right now, we have well over 100 Olympians who use Shaklee on a regular basis and trust Shaklee with their bodies. So it's a pretty phenomenal story, and it's a big differentiator between Shaklee and other companies in the market.
Well, that is fantastic. So let's talk about differentiation, because the subject we're going to be talking about is Shaklee as a business, and specifically the concept of Shaklee as an answer, not the answer, but an answer. One way that we can tackle the healthcare crisis that is consuming our country, and in fact many other countries, throughout the world. Obesity is increasing even in less developed countries. We really are facing some very, very serious challenges. In the U.S., maybe even more because of factors that have developed over time. We end up paying twice as much as any other, I believe, advanced democracy for our health care. And I think the last time I looked at our statistics, our public health was number 26. So we're paying twice as much to be number 26. That's like a real mathematician or a businessman to know that really doesn't add up. So, Eli, tell us a little bit about your thoughts as a businessman yourself, as an entrepreneur. What is it about the Shaklee opportunity and the Shaklee products, particularly, that addresses some of these big issues?
Well, let's start with, in business, especially in entrepreneurism, you always want to start by defining the problem that you're trying to solve. And the problem we're working on solving here is people needing to live healthier lives. And you hit on some of these numbers. It's absolutely staggering what's happening in the U.S. today. Healthcare is around about $3.5 trillion. It's something like 1 out of every $6 in our country's GDP is actually going to our healthcare. And when we say healthcare, it's a little bit of a misnomer. It's really a sickness care, right? Like, you don't go to the doctor to stay healthy. You go to the doctor because you get sick. And healthcare costs are skyrocketing. I'm guessing everybody on this call, everybody who's listening, all of your friends have experienced a drastic rise in the healthcare expense. It's becoming fairly normal now to have people spending $25,000 to $30,000 a year between their premiums and their deductibles. If you do the math on this, Bob, it's really fascinating. You could buy about a $500,000 house with a mortgage payment that you could pay with the price that people are paying for their medical expenses right now in the U.S. on an average basis. It's pretty amazing, the cost. So that's the problem on a financial level. On a personal level, you look at the number of people who have diabetes. Last year, the estimate was that 30 million adults in the United States have diabetes. Of those, about 23 million are diagnosed and about 7 million are living with it undiagnosed. And that's the adults. 5 years ago, it was estimated that potentially 1 in 4 youth in the United States had diabetes or pre-diabetes. And that statistic I've heard is potentially getting closer to 1 in 3 right now. I'm an Air Force veteran. I've worked closely with the Air Force on some issues around sports and health. And I was told about a year and a half ago that one of the main things that the military is concerned about right now is the fact that it's only fewer than 1 in 5 kids, it's somewhere around 1 in 6 kids are even eligible for military service, largely because of health-related issues. This is something we have not seen before. So it's becoming a major economic problem. It's becoming a national security problem. It's becoming, one of, if not the major problems facing America today. So as an entrepreneur, when I look at the first question of what problem are you trying to solve, we're trying to solve at the singular level, at the one-person level, the health crisis in the U.S. We're not going to say we're going to take care of that $3.5 trillion problem, but what we can do is we can solve that problem on a one-on-one basis, because the number one driver of expense of healthcare in America is considered to be lifestyle choices. It's basically what people are eating, the lack of nutrition that they're getting, the overconsumption of empty calories, and the lack of exercise and activity that they have. That's considered to be the top driver of healthcare expense in America today. And so that's where Shaklee comes in, because Shaklee's working on the nutritional component and a bit of the lifestyle component associated with being involved with a healthier lifestyle, using healthier products, things that can actually drive your health. And on a financial front, I mean, we know it works. There's been a landmark study. There's been many, many studies that show that Shaklee and proper nutrition make a massive difference on your health markers. So there's really no question about that. And now what we're seeing is that people are becoming more responsible financially for their own health and well-being. And that's where you see the convergence of the healthcare crisis, the problem that we're solving, and the solution that Shaklee brings to the table. So I think from both of those points of view, it's a very, very attractive business to be getting into. I mean, you want to get in anytime you have an opportunity, sooner rather than later. But let's face it, this crisis is not going to go away in the next 5 or 10 years. So I think this is going to be a great business to be in over the long haul as people are trying to decide where they want to engage with some extra hours or extra effort that they're putting in on a home-based business.
Yeah, those are some very, very, very compelling points, and really something that we need to look at, as a country, as you said, from a health standpoint, from a national security standpoint, from a human suffering standpoint. All of that ill health represents, in my view, an unacceptable level of suffering that people experience. So let's turn our attention to what advice would you have, Eli, as a business person? There are some people who are either start at the beginning of their Shaklee career on the phone here. There are some people who are maybe resetting their businesses. What would you focus on? Given what you've just said, what would you focus on? What would you have people focus on to really help them build their business as quickly and efficiently as they can?
Well, I think that the first thing is you got to recognize the opportunity. If you've been involved with the business for, a long time, whether it's 5 years or 10 or 15 years, realize that the market's changing drastically on a number of fronts. And you have an opportunity now a little bit to hit the reset button because the market dynamics are just so doggone good for this business. And that's, we've already talked about the healthcare crisis and this being a solution. But there's another piece of this, Bob, that you and I have talked about offline about other trends that are happening in the markets. Home-based network marketing businesses are exploding, and there's a reason for that. And quite simply put, it's because they work. It's because companies are realizing that spending a ton of money on advertising, putting images on your TV screen, or now they're trying to put it on your mobile device, it can build brand awareness, but the U.S. consumer is becoming incredibly savvy. We may have health problems, but we're very savvy consumers, and we're not trusting of advertising anymore. But what marketers are talking about as the holy grail is social validation of products. And if you think about this, here's an example I like to use. If I see an advertisement, I like eating sushi. So if I see an advertisement for a restaurant and it says it's got great sushi, and Bob, you tell me, oh, that's not a good restaurant. This restaurant's got great sushi. I went there last night and it was superb. I am always going to take the recommendation of someone I know and I trust over an advertisement. And what network marketing companies are capitalizing on is the proliferation of the ability for people to have a large network through things like social media and electronic communications that we've never had before, and to be able to spread their influence and then monetize it. So it's a tremendous business opportunity. that's been coming about, and that's why I said these network marketing companies are skyrocketing in value, and many people are creating a substantial amount of personal wealth for themselves, for their families, because they're capitalizing on this business opportunity. The cool thing about Shackley is I think they've got everything. They're addressing the biggest problem in the U.S. They've got a solution that actually works, and they're in a market that's exploiting market trends of social validation and interhuman relationships to do product distribution and credibility for their products. So if you're just getting started, realize that you've got these tools, and it's a great time to do that. But then you also have to engage with the market. You have to learn what you're doing, learn about the products, understand why Shackley is offering a great solution. I do a lot of conversations, a lot of speeches for Shackley, and people come up afterwards and say, I feel so emboldened now because I feel like now I feel like I'm offering a real solution to people around me. So the more you can learn about what the products do, about the reasons why they can help reduce healthcare costs through healthy living, through better lifestyles, then the easier it is to have conversations with people you know and people in your sphere of social influence who are going to be interested in partnering with you to either A, live healthier lives on their part, B, improve the lives of the people around them, or C, grow a business. And so, my biggest suggestion is just understand the opportunity that you're faced with right now and capitalize on it, because, it's like people right now wish that they bought Bitcoin a year ago. They're thrilled they didn't buy it 3 months ago, or 3 weeks ago. In the same way, the best time to get in this market, I think, is right now.
Absolutely. And when you consider a couple other questions, you really touched on the reasons why network marketing as an industry is exploding, and specifically network marketing companies like Shackley that have been in the business for 60 plus years, proven product line, hundreds of millions of dollars research, never ever embarrass us. But there is a component also that's going on in our country and other countries where people need extra income, don't they? They actually need an opportunity. For whatever reason, the income disparity has been increasing, and a lot of market dynamics and much of the sense of security that other generations may have had, or at least for a period of time after the Second World War, that people could really kind of count on, going to a job, having a job, and having a pension, and that was their life. Things have really changed a lot, and people need to, in the same way that we, I think, can't actually rely just on a doctor to keep us healthy, we need to keep ourselves healthy. In the same way, we want to look around and say, what can we do what are our opportunities? What's my opportunities? Maybe as a person who doesn't have a lot of business background, or maybe someone who doesn't have a lot of capital, a lot of expertise, what can I do to secure myself financially? So would you talk to us a little bit about that from your perspective, Eli, as a business?
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm in my late 30s, and so I've sort of had a front row seat to the change in the way people have viewed employment from when I was probably in high school. It really started changing, where the idea was you're going to get a job with a company, and you're going to work your way up the corporate ladder, and maybe 35 years later they're going to give you a watch and a pension. Well, first of all, we're wearing iWatches now, so that went out of date pretty fast. But more importantly, a lot of those companies are even going out of business. Let's say you worked at Kmart, for instance. The last Kmart in my town just closed. I live in a city with 500,000 people. Would you have thought 30 years ago that betting on Kmart for your pension was a bad idea? So that's been on the one side that we've seen these giant corporations that are just getting sucked under by the new economy. On the other hand, as people are advancing in their careers, it's becoming not only more acceptable, but more desirable to have a bit of a zigzag pattern. You stay in a job for just a few years, you acquire some skills, you master it, you take that to another position. And so everything is saying, obviously, you can't work for one company forever. And yet, your family still needs an income. You still have to pay your mortgage. You still got house payments. And things like healthcare costs are going up, not down. And so many people in the U.S. are realizing they have to find another way to make some income that's actually quite a bit more stable than their work environment, because you're probably not going to be working in the same place 5 years from now that you are today. One of the cool things about a network marketing business is that in 5 years, you actually will be in the same company. You may not live in the same house. You may not get the same W-2 paycheck, but you're going to get the same 1099 paycheck from the company. And that brings up another point. Everybody is aware right now there are massive taxation changes that just happened. And one of the things that should be on the forefront of everybody's mind is the ability to earn income on a 1099 or contractor type basis, because it opens up the door for wonderful deductions. And, Bob, I'm sure you've experienced this, and I know many people have been involved in the company for a long time, but this is a well-known benefit of having a home-based or network marketing business, is that it legally gives you the ability to take things that might otherwise not be a tax-deductible item and enables you to deduct some of that from your other income. So I know a lot of distributors who have spouses that are high earners, and they actually got involved with network marketing companies because they were able to improve their lifestyle largely through improving their tax situation. So there's benefits on every which way, from long-term stability in the way that you don't have with your primary employer to the ability to sort of help reduce your tax burden. And, sometimes it's just the financial freedom of whether it's having a few $100s a month or a few $1,000s or a few tens of thousands of dollars a month more. You're never going to sit there and say, gee, it's the end of the month and I've got a little bit too much money in my bank account.
You can always find good ways to spend that money. You can't find.
You know what? If you have that problem, just reach out to me. I'll help you solve that one. That's a problem I'd love to help you solve.
All kinds of wonderful things to spend our money on that are good. So one last question. I think some people may still have a little bit of a feeling in their mind. Is this kind of business structure really as legitimate or good as the business structure that most people are familiar with? And when we spoke last, toward the end of the call, you had some really eloquent things to say about that from your perspective of seeing what is happening in the corporate world. So just stepping back to kind of the 30,000-foot level, is this channel of trade, if you will, this network marketing channel of trade, here to stay, and why, in your opinion?
Yeah, it's number one, it's here to stay. Number two, not every network marketing company is ethical or principled or should be in the business. And I'm going to caveat that by saying, just like we see in every other industry, a lot of people have condemned network marketing because there's been a few bad actors in there. But, I still use an accounting firm despite the fact that Arthur Andersen did horrible accounting at Enron. We don't tend to condemn other industries in the same way that people have over time associated one or two bad actors with an entire industry. That being said, I think reputationally the industry is really surging right now because it is working. Now, getting into the much more technical piece of this, if you look at one of the things that I look at when I look at a network marketing company is the core business setup around a compensation system, around a sales system that makes sense. And I look at Shackley and supplements and health products, and they have what you call like a high R&D cost, research and development. Shackley puts a lot of effort into the science behind the products. That's why so many Olympians feel comfortable taking it, for instance. But that's a high R&D cost product. On the margin, it's not an expensive product to produce. And so if I look for a like business, I would find that with things like pharmaceutical companies, for instance. And we don't think twice about the fact that pharmaceutical companies pay a tremendous amount of money in advertising and then also in sales commissions for their reps. And when you actually peel back the financial reports and you start looking at it, you realize that if I were to look at, maybe a pharmaceutical company, look at a company like Shackley, they'd probably actually look fairly similar because, again, a pharmaceutical, they put a lot of money into the R&D, the patents, the IP behind their product, and then they're able to pay a high sales commission because they have a low marginal cost. if you change that over, let's say apparel, for instance, might have a much higher marginal cost of production and then a lower ability to pay for commissions on sales. And so when you see an industry like that, I don't think that's a particularly good network marketing opportunity, as opposed to companies that are set up around higher R&D and lower marginal costs or cost of goods sold. And so fundamentally, people ask all the time, is it sustainable? And the answer is, if you're in the right industry, yes, it's absolutely sustainable if the cost of the products is such, if you've got defensible IP on it, things like that that are in the background are such that you can afford to pay commissions to your sales team, which is effectively, in many ways, what a distributor is, or an entrepreneur inside a network marketing business. And so, to be very clear, from a business point of view, it makes a tremendous amount of sense. It looks very similar to what many other companies that are operating in similar spaces do. In fact, if you look at another health product company or a supplement company that sells to a big box store, what are they going to do? They're going to pay a tremendous amount of money in marketing and advertising, and maybe quite a bit less than Shaklee in R&D. But the back-end financials are going to look very similar to Shaklee, and we don't question that if you're selling your products at GNC or Target, that you're a long-term sustainable company. So anyway, I hope that answers a lot of questions people have about the sustainability of a network marketing company. I do not propose that every network marketing company is ethical or is in the right sales channel. However, I think Shaklee is extremely well positioned from a business point of view. There's no reason why this can't operate in perpetuity, grow, and be an income for you and your family for many, many, many years, because it just makes perfect business sense.
Well, that is wonderful, Eli, and I think that we'll finish on that point and open it up to questions, because that is, after all, from our perspective, just like from our unitary individual perspective, we grapple with the macro healthcare issue by taking care of ourselves, right? Can't take care of other people necessarily. We can take care of ourselves. And in the same way, we can choose to partner with a company that operates completely ethically, has been for 60 years. And just one other point to kind of put an emphasis on, those high costs up front are really quite an advantage. If a company is willing to pay, if a company is willing to pay the hundreds of millions of dollars to do the R&D and to manufacture to a very, very, very high standard, then that is the protection. That is the primary protection of us as entrepreneurs, because that creates a product that, as you say, works, and the whole virtuous cycle of the business is there, and it can go on in perpetuity.
Great. And Bob, to pause on that for 1 second, that's what we would call in business a barrier to entry. It's, you can't just start a supplement company with the kind of research that Shaklee has. The other major barrier to entry, if you've been to a conference, you hear Roger Barnett, our CEO, constantly talk about patents. Shaklee has locked down the IP, the intellectual property behind these products, which enable them to have a much better long-term income stream, because they've got defensible IP. So it's another term to sort of think about when you're looking at a company that's positioned long-term. Do they have something that they can keep somebody else from doing? And Shaklee has invested hundreds of millions of dollars. They've got their patents. They've got defensible IP. And therefore, they're entitled to reap oversized returns for years to come.
Beautiful point. Okay, so we are at the questions, comments, kudos part of the call. If anyone has a question for Eli or a comment or a thank you, just touch *6, and we'll wait for the first person to come on.
Hi, Bob. This is Iris in Fort Lauderdale.
Hey, Iris. How are you?
Hi, thank you. Doing well. Still playing golf at 85.
I love it. A true Shaklee girl.
I'm envious.
And Peter's still surfing, and it'll be 60 in March.
I know. My tennis partner, Pete.
Yeah, thank you so much, Bob, and thank you, Eli. That was a wonderful call.
Well, thank you, Iris. Thank you for your appreciation. It's always a pleasure having Eli on. He's a smart and sensible guy, isn't he?
Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Iris. Appreciate that. Although you're making me very envious. I actually had hip surgery last week, and I'm out of golf for about 4 or 5 months. So,
well, I had hip surgery from a fall out of a car.
Yeah.
But
well, I had this is my second. This is my second one. Maybe next time I'm down in Florida, we can hook up for some golf. That's my new adopted sport.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Terrific. Any other questions for Eli? Any questions about the business or any of the things that we talked about?
I have a follow-on comment, if that's okay. Hi, this is David Swain in New Hampshire, and following on what you were talking about intellectual property and patents, in doing some research on a competitor that was doing very well around here for a while, I noticed 2 interesting things that some companies are doing right now to fight the patent battle. One of those is they will have one product that is their magic product, and then they will get a patent on that. Then they'll also get a patent on the magic product plus vitamin B, and the magic product plus vitamin C, and so on. And so that's one thing they do. Another thing this company did was they would get those patents in the U.S., and then they'd shop around to 20 other countries and get the patent there too, and then proclaim how they had 60 or 70 patents. As opposed to what Shaklee does, Shaklee has over 70 patented technologies, completely separate technologies.
That's a beautiful point, David. And, go ahead.
And the reason that's very germane is we talked earlier about social validation. When you choose to be involved with a network marketing company, you're putting your reputation on the line. And it's extremely important if you're talking to new people and they're looking at a number of companies, you can challenge them to say, go do your own research, because if you're going to put your name on a company, you want to be able to trust it. And quite frankly, I'd rather trust a company that's got 60 real patents and patents on technology for how we do our cold press extractions and things like this that Shaklee actually has that are real than gimmicky patents. And, the other thing that you brought up, I love your term, the magic product. I love seeing the new magic product that comes out of various companies. And I always challenge people, fast forward 10 years and ask yourself the question, in 10 years, will people still think this is an amazing revolution that we should have seen this one coming? And every time I've done that, people have sort of thought about it and hung their heads and said, no, it's probably not. Well, Shaklee's selling vitamin C. I'm pretty sure in 10 years people are still going to take vitamin C. The difference is we're extracting it in a way that's unique to Shaklee. We've got processes that are considered absolutely top notch in the industry. We're doing something that if you fast forward 10 years, it will stand the test of time. And that's something that I get very concerned about with other companies in the industry. When people have asked me about them, I don't condemn them. I just say, fast forward 10 years and tell me if you think people are still going to buy that product through this channel in 10 years. And I feel very comfortable answering yes to Shaklee. And quite frankly, that's a tough question for a lot of other companies to answer.
Exactly. Yeah, I have some difficulty getting some of this across to people who don't have a technical background. So they'll just take somebody's word for it. But if we just tell people, look for how many U.S. patents they have, not the total number of patents, and look a little bit deeper into what they're doing, is the same thing repeated in all of those. Yeah,
and also, ask them, what product 10 years ago revolutionized the market, and they're probably going to have a real trouble coming up with that, because there's probably not a magic bullet. Shaklee's solution that we've proposed is getting back to nature. It's getting the whole nutrition. It's in extracting things without damaging them. And I don't think that's trendy. I don't think that's super cool or hip. I mean, it's actually becoming more so, I suppose. But it was there 10 years ago, it was there 20 years ago, it was there 30 years ago, it's going to be there in 10 years, and 20 years, and 30 years. So as you're stacking your reputation alongside a company, I think it's just really wise to look at what's going to bear the test of time, and then if you look backwards and said, which company pushed a gimmicky product 10 years ago that I wish I'd staked my reputation on, I honestly can't think of any.
Right. As they say, Eli, the company that doesn't exist is not going to pay you a bonus check, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
This is Alan in New Jersey.
So, who else? Who's next?
This is Alan in New Jersey.
Hi, Alan.
Hi. I started in Shackley in 1974 and had it in my trunk and my car in the old days when the old technology was applicable. Used Basic H for all these years, but I'm just re-looking at the business, and I'm 74 now. And a question regarding the vitamin C you were just talking about. Do you happen to know if it's whole vitamin C or is it a ascorbic vitamin C?
Okay, vitamin C is ascorbic acid.
Okay. I do a lot of work, and
I'm not
recently about the different vitamin C's and having it be whole as opposed to ascorbic acid, and I just didn't know if you knew that.
That'd be a question my mom would probably be a lot better situated to answer because she's got her doctorate in that. But it's my understanding that I think, Bob, you can correct me if I'm wrong in this, but I think vitamin C is ascorbic acid, is it not?
No, ascorbic acid is a part of vitamin C.
Is it part of vitamin C? Okay.
It's a part of it.
There's a family, the bioflavonoids that come along with it, which Shackley has always touted as being in their product, are an important part of the vitamin C family as well.
Right.
So,
that's something Shackley has focused on is the totality, the totality of absorption. So, for instance, I was talking about having anemia. They actually put vitamin C in with iron because vitamin C helps you absorb iron. So, again, I'm probably out kicking my coverage on getting that particular on the type of vitamin C it is, but it is something that's sort of baked into the DNA of the company that's the ethos. They'll spend more money to make sure that you've got the higher quality version of everything.
Right.
Is there a hotline number at the company that is available to answer that technical question?
Yeah, absolutely. And Alan, if you let's see, how's the best way to do it? Just give me a call. I'm going to give you my telephone number. It's 913-208-6357, and we'll take that offline. But just one comment based on what you said, Eli. The way Shackley approaches product development is just like the way you asked us to approach a business. What problem do you want to solve? And that's exactly what Shackley does. They look in the literature, they look at what's happening in people's health, and where are the problems that can be solved, and how can we solve them? And then they go through a very, very extensive process of research and development. And then when the product is finally developed, all Shackley products are tested with people. In other words, the bioavailability tests are not done. They actually give people the products, take a look at the absorption levels. That's a very, very important thing. So without getting into the weeds of how any given product is created, overall, and the reason why I think Dr. Shackley, even in the old days, said, give me anyone's raw materials, and by the way, I work with them, I can make them 50% more effective, or whatever it was he said. That ethic of looking at what it is that you're trying to do. We need to get this and this and this and this compound into the bloodstream so that it has this beneficial effect. So overarchingly, that is the way Shackley approaches R&D. It's the way they approach the construction of their product, the way they approach the manufacturing of the product so that the product actually behaves in the body in a way where the nutrients get into your cell. Because the nutrient that just passes through your digestive system doesn't do you much good.
I missed just a little bit of your phone number. I apologize. You got the 913. What's the second three numbers?
208-6357.
Okay, thank you so much.
All right. A couple more questions. Anyone else?
Bob, Eli, can you hear me? It's Albert Ramos.
Hey, Albert.
Yes, I can hear you.
Hey, guys. Hey, great meeting, great talk. I really appreciate this, Eli. Great stuff. And I think the key thing you said and everything is a healthier lifestyle with healthier nutrition are the two main drivers that will solve this healthcare crisis. I totally agree with what you're saying. I think this drastic rise in healthcare costs are going to be on everyone's mind, going forward in the near future, especially young people today. The one thing I actually promote every day is the word prevention, because I really feel that one day in the future, the insurance industry is going to separate and say who are the healthy people. We're going to give them a certain insurance premiums, and people that aren't healthy will get another insurance. Sort of like being a good driver and a bad driver with your auto insurance. What do you think about that concept?
I think from a financial point of view, that's almost a near certainty. How the mechanism for that is unclear, whether it's a two-tiered healthcare system where the unhealthier people tend to be on a more government subsidized system, and healthier people pay a higher deductible, lower premium plan. That's the discussion in healthcare right now. Regardless of what that is, no matter what the future is, though, one of the best solutions is if you're less sick, if you're healthier, taking preventative measures, you're going to spend less money on your health care. There is no solution that any political party, anyone in the industry has proposed where you're not better off to be a healthier person. It's a bad time in the U.S. to be getting sick. Let's put it that way. So, there's a huge policy piece behind what you said. I think you're probably fairly squared away on the likelihood going forward, regardless of what the future on health insurance is. Though, as I said, it's right now people I know are having $5,000-$10,000 deductibles, which means you got to pay that much before you get the first dollar of insurance coverage. And so it's really interesting that the idea of spending maybe $2,000 a year on healthcare products to keep yourself healthy seemed like an extravagance. Now it seems like it's a bargain. And that's it's kind of,
And I love the way you say it, Eli. Thanks a lot for doing this. We're going to pass this on to recording, Bob, to as many people as we can. But this was great stuff, absolutely great stuff, and I certainly appreciate it. By the way, get healthy, Eli, with that hip of yours. I didn't realize you had surgery, so do your therapy.
Yeah, and speaking of vitamin C, it's interesting. My mom's been doing some reading up on this and has been telling me take vitamin C to help promote healing from soft tissue damages. So I'm actually taking a tremendous amount of vitamin C. I take a Life Strip every day, but I've been taking the vitamin C and then a boatload of omegas. And little Eli post-surgical tip as an extra here, take the liver DTX. If you got someone who's going into surgery, liver DTX helps your body clear pollutants in the body. And so actually my dad had a hip replacement a week before I had my hip surgery, and I had him on the liver DTX, and then taking the recovery PM stuff. So I've got my own little regiment there. If you got people going into surgery, that's my sort of cocktail to have a faster recovery.
Beautiful. Beautiful, Eli. All right, you guys take care, and I hope to see you all soon.
Thank you, Albert.
Thank you.
Okay, maybe one or two more questions, and then we'll wrap it up. Okay, well, we'll finish on Albert's wonderful high note. Eli, thank you very much for coming on. I think we'll let a little bit more time go by, and we'll just think of something else to talk about, and we'll get you back on Shaklee Talks.
Well, that sounds great. We'll have. I hope everybody's watching next month as we're going to have a bunch of Pure Performance team members competing in Korea. Stay tuned for some information coming out of the company about who our athletes are going to be. there's actually a blackout period that happens during the Olympics, so Shackley Corporation will have to remove the information of our athletes from our website. So I'll encourage everybody, stay tuned next week. You can check in on my Facebook page, check out the corporate athletes.shackley.com, and we're going to be releasing a pretty awesome group of athletes that are trusting Shackley. Jot that down, and you can watch them as they compete, because you won't be able to, from February 1st until the end of the Olympics, you're not going to be able to get that information on the Shackley website. So if you want to cheer on our athletes, we're going to have some cool things coming out next week, so stay tuned on that. And Bob, as always, I'm thrilled to be on your talk here, and would love to come back at another time.
Absolutely, and just to put a emphasis on that, the website is athletes.shackley.com. No www, just athletes.shackley.com. I'll put that out on a bunch of Facebook pages and also in Shackley Friends to clue people in to go there and kind of take a look and see who the athletes are, so that we can note them down and enjoy their performances during that blackout period. So, Eli, thank you very much. And, folks, we will see you next week. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.